I'll be doing a series of videos, hopefully, on here regarding the current financial situation that we find ourselves in. And I'll be quoting from several articles. The first one tonight will be regarding the pending legislation before the Senate, Obama's bailout bill. So I'm quoting here from Firedoglake. This is a website, and it's run by Jane Hamsher, and it goes as follows. As a business person, Warren Buffett quite rightly wanted something for his money when he bought up the failed banks that couldn't get help anywhere else. In fact, he wanted a lot. He expected to have the ability to make sure the same executives weren't pulling down the same salaries for making the same mistakes, and that the business plan changed. It was pretty basic, a bedrock principle of capitalism, the ability to exercise control appropriate to one's share of ownership. So now we're about to buy ourselves some failed banks. This is the bad bank proposal that's on the table. But we can't get what Warren Buffett gets because nobody wants to mention the N-word, which is nationalization. One part of that strategy will be addressing the toxic assets that are clogging lenders' balance sheets and preventing them from expanding credit, people familiar with the matter said last week. Likely approaches include a government-run bad bank to buy and hold some of the securities and insurance of other assets that remain on those banks' books. Many, if not most of our banks are, in fact, bankrupt. The scope of these toxic assets has reached a problem of $2 trillion. The sum vastly exceeds the capital of the banking system itself. But our money somehow isn't as good as Warren Buffett's. We, as taxpayers, all we get for it is toxic assets. The Obama administration is looking to hand taxpayer dollars to the banks through a variety of complex mechanisms. The main reason for using complex mechanisms rather than simply seizing bankrupt institutions seems to be to conceal the fact that we are handing taxpayer dollars to bank shareholders and the wealthy executives who run them. Krugman, the economist who has a column in the New York Times, calls it lemon capitalism. Taxpayers bear the cost if things go wrong, but stockholders and executives get the benefits if things go right. Or as Joseph Stiglitz, the other economist who is on this, pointed out, it's trash for cash. It's almost inconceivable that anyone would try to sell this as a good deal for taxpayers, but that's where we are. Krugman again. We have a financial system that is run by private shareholders, managed by private institutions, and we'd like to do our best to preserve that system, says Timothy Geithner, the Treasury Secretary, who has just been confirmed, as he prepares to put taxpayers on the hook for that system's immense losses. Meanwhile, a Washington Post report based on administration sources says that Mr. Geithner and Lawrence Summers, President Obama's top economic advisor, think government make poor managers, as opposed to, presumably, the private sector geniuses who managed to lose more than $1 trillion in the space of a few years. Ronald Reagan told us that government is the problem, and George Bush proves it's true by running it into the ground. What that really means is that you should never put people in charge of something who philosophically don't believe that it's possible to do their jobs well. It doesn't mean we should be making irrational business deals out of a commitment to failed ideologies of people who, failed. We're paying to nationalize the banks, all right, we just can't talk about it, nor can we profit from it, because the very idea is socialist and sits firmly within the sphere of deviance. According to Rebecca Christie at Bloomberg, they'll try to put a few band-aids on a bill limiting executive pay, not their actual compensation, and dividends, and require banks to step up their lending. But when Timothy Geithner appears before the Senate Banking Committee in February, or the House Financial Services Committee shortly thereafter, don't expect anyone to be offering the Americans footing the bill for this deal anything other than the unwanted trash of the banks. Our representatives don't think we deserve to get for our money what Warren Buffett deserves for his. If his banks make money, Warren Buffett makes money. He gets to be richer and his shareholders get to be richer. If our banks get richer, we don't get to have schools and green energy and healthcare and trains that the profits could and should pay for, because we're buying the bad banks. In other words, executives get to keep their Gulfstream jets for creating this mess in the first place. So what we get to keep then is a big pile of shit, because everyone suggested that the N-word is deviant. I'll post a link to that article. Good night.